Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for the City of Hendersonville, Tennessee. It's October 10th, 2023. It's a little bit after 7 o'clock, and for that I apologize. But we're going to nevertheless begin our meeting as we typically do. That's with a prayer and pledge from a local pastor. And tonight we have Joshua Strader. He is the Associate Pastor of Hendersonville First United Methodist Church. Joshua, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate everything you do for our community and everything that our church does for this community. I appreciate that very much. So please go ahead.
Would you pray with me? Father in heaven, we take time at the onset of this meeting to pause, to give thanks to you, and to ask for your wisdom and direction in our deliberations this night. We thank you for the beauty of this day, for the wonderful city of Hendersonville, and for the honor it is to serve our community members. We thank you for the privileges, opportunities, and resources that we too often take for granted. And we ask that you would help us to be good stewards of all that you've entrusted to us, while being mindful and dutiful to meet the needs of all of our community members with your care and compassion. We pray for our first responders, our servicemen and women, and those who put themselves at risk every day to protect and serve this community. Would you keep them and their families safe? We pray for this council, our aldermen, and our mayor to be filled with your wisdom. We pray that you would lead us collectively and creatively to find solutions to any problems that we face and to embrace new opportunities with your guidance, blessing, and favor. And finally, Lord, as we convene tonight, we also pause to remember our brothers and sisters in Israel, praying for peace, for cessation of evil, terror, and violence. May you direct our thoughts and our hearts this night and always. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
And again, that was Pastor Joshua Strader from Hendersonville First United Methodist Church. Joshua, thank you. So please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to entertain a motion that we accept the agenda. We have a motion from Alderman Waters. We have a second from Alderman Goodwin. Alderman Robertson.
Yes, I have an amendment that I would like to request on item 8.
Okay.
I would like a separate vote on that item since it possibly could result in an expenditure of close to $500,000 on the city. So I would like to have a vote on that and a discussion on that motion, whether to waive the 2-week rule.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I so move.
Okay. We have a second from Alderman Waters. I'll just explain to you all that we have a rule the Board of Mayor and Aldermen created probably about 20 years ago to prevent items from going from a committee straight to the board on the same night or a special committee meeting and not giving people, not giving members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen opportunity to sort of think it over, consider it, talk to people about it, and that's why that rule was created. We have waived that at times, but I've always been very clear to mention in my proposed agenda if I'm asking you to waive that. Typically, I point it out, and we don't take a vote on that item separately because, as our previous city attorney let me know, that when we vote on the agenda, if it's on that agenda, then we're essentially voting to include that. However, any member has the right, and certainly this is now the opportunity for us to vote on that specific item, essentially voting if we want to waive the 2-week rule or not. And so we are being asked to not waive the 2-week rule. And if that's if the board votes to accept that amendment, this item will be on the agenda in 2 weeks. So Alderman Sassy.
Well, may I discuss my motion?
Sure, Alderman Robertson. That makes sense.
I'm sorry. This is a resolution that would obligate the city for, I think it's around $440,000 to purchase some vacant land at the pretty much at the end of the city limits and the beginning of county limits. The reason that I object to this rushing of this resolution of this kind of money is twofold. First, it has not gone to the Finance Committee. Anything this large, I believe, needs to go through the Finance Committee's discussion. Plus, I was just in general, and there was no discussion on how the city would pay for, if this resolution is approved, how the city would pay for it. So I don't think it's ripe for our action. I want us to go through the Finance Committee and let the Finance Committee look at this and bring us forward their recommendation, because this is a major expenditure that, in my view, will bust our budget. So that's the reason that I support not waiving the rule and letting it go to Finance.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Sassy.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Robertson, I agree with you. I don't like waiving the 2-week rule. I think it needs to be on only in extreme cases that we waive the 2-week rule. It shouldn't just be something that we use frequently. However, there's a time frame on this that we need to meet. The deadline is short. In fact, we have until tomorrow to make a decision on this. And so, and I would have preferred having it go to Finance as well, but due to Finance Committee not meeting until later this month, that wasn't an option. So it did get brought up at General tonight. And so that's the purpose for waiving the 2-week rule. I would like to have a conversation on the ordinance itself. You know, if it gets voted down, then that's the end of it. However, I think it's important for us to discuss it at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sassy. Alderman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. I too agree with Eddie, but what I'd like to ask Lance, what would happen if we say, hey, can we have 2 more weeks with the attorneys?
I think that's a good question that could be asked of them, and I don't know that they would decline it. I just don't know for sure that they would approve it.
Right. We kind of need an answer right now, don't we?
It would help, but they, and I say they, there's an attorney that represents the owner selling this parcel of land, and then there's the buyer who both I've spoken to, and both have been amenable to work with the city on this. So I don't know that they would decline that request for a couple extra weeks to give them the decision. They wouldn't have to, and I don't know for a fact that they would.
Okay, thank you. I'm ready to vote, Mayor. Thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Jason, we're going to do this electronically. Alderman Waters, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a hot discussion in the General Committee tonight, but my concern is this board here represents the city, not just that location over there. We can't just jump in here tonight and vote on this knowing that we didn't, I don't think we had enough warning for us to really go through it for 2 meetings. So I object to my brother down the aisle there. We need to think about what we're doing, and as far as spending this kind of money, and have this postponed for the next meeting. I don't like it when how long have we had it, Mayor? Had this if the deadline's tomorrow?
So I brought it up to y'all 2 weeks ago, and I knew about it maybe 2 days before that.
Okay, that's still okay, but I don't like for people to tell me that you got to do this now, or you don't get it. So I agree with my colleague here on my right, and let's think about the city, not just one location. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. So the motion is to remove this item from the agenda. So if you vote yes, you're removing it from the agenda and won't be considered tonight. It will be considered in 2 weeks. If you vote no, it will be considered tonight. So that's sort of opposite of simple thought, to be honest with you. Alderman Collins.
Mr. Ray, if we don't vote on this tonight, then potentially it could go on the market on Thursday.
There's already a contract for the parcel to buy it from the buyer, but the deed, so this generated from a easement deed back in 2003, an easement to the city. In that easement deed, it was negotiated to have the first right of refusal to buy the parcel, And in that language, it gave the city 15 days to make that decision.
So, did I understand correctly that they already have a contract with somebody? If we refuse, then it's sold? They already have a buyer?
Unless it is sold, and unless the city exercises its right of first refusal, then it will also have the other piece, but that doesn't say, as to Alderman Dixon's question, that we couldn't ask for an additional amount of time, but there's no.
They're under no
There's no guarantee.
obligation.
No.
So there's at least a chance that not considering it tonight is the same as voting no and not buying it,
That is correct.
because they would have the right, on Thursday, they can exercise their contract, and it's not an option for us to discuss anymore.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Any more, do y'all need any more clarification on the vote? Okay, so, thank you, Alderman Peterson. So, we have a motion to remove this item from the agenda. So if you vote aye, we will not consider this item tonight. If you vote no, we will consider this item tonight. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to remove this from the agenda, press the green button. Those opposed to the motion, which would keep this item on the agenda, vote no. Missing one person. There we go. So this fails 7-6, so it will stay on the agenda. Those voting no, Alderman Bergdorf, Peterson, Martin, Sassy, Garza, Collins, and myself. Those voting yes, Alderman Skidmore, Dixon, Goodwin, Garton, Waters, and Robertson. Okay, so now we're back on the main motion to consider the agenda. I do want to add one item. If we could, so the mayor's report is going to be on the Resource Authority. I'd like to just add, and also about future meetings and the possible cancellation of future meetings. That's something we need to discuss. So it's not really a new agenda item. I just need some latitude to change item 12. And so, so if we could just add report on the Resource Authority of Sumner County, and consider our schedule for future meetings. Okay, so we have a second. I make that motion. A second from Alderman Sassy. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. And I also want to mention that we have 4 items on the consent agenda. If anybody would like to pull one of those off, you can do that just by requesting that. And it doesn't seem like anybody wants to, but that's always the case. We have a consent agenda. If you request it, then I'll go ahead and do that in that manner. I think we're okay then. So right now we're back to the agenda as was proposed. Any other discussion, any other proposals? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. We have no presentations, no public hearings. I'm going to entertain a motion that we approve the minutes that were provided to you in your packet from our September 26, 2023 meeting. We have a motion from Alderman Waters, a second from Alderman Peterson. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have citizen comments. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per person, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, not to alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with different views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. We have one person signed up, and that's Stephen Rozek of Lawrence Way.
Good evening. Stephen Rozak, 110 South Lawrence Way here in Hendersonville. I have many concerns about resolution number 2023-36, which is agenda item number 1, a proposed city contract with Broken Paddle Outfitters, LLC. My first question is, how can a for-profit business put any type of company-owned physical structure and docks on city property These city park areas are funded through taxation of Hendersonville residents and businesses for the enjoyment of all, not for the dedicated use of any one single business. The second issue is who pays the city's additional costs for a response to a water rescue situation? Will these costs be billed directly to Broken Paddle Outfitters? Number three, I have read the liability waiver for Broken Paddle Outfitters and have serious reservation as to what increased liability that puts our city into, since Broken Paddle Outfitters is an LLC, a limited liability corporation. If there was a death or serious injury of a person or persons, and Broken Paddle Outfitters ceased operations, where would that leave the city in a liability issue? Issue 4 is fiscal impact that was written in the resolution. The 7.5% of net sales would be given to the city in installments of 2 times per year. The term net sales can be interpreted in numerous ways. How would the amount be determined and kept separate, since Broken Paddle Outfitters has 2 other current locations and a brick and mortar store in Bellevue? 5, our brick and mortar businesses in the city of Hendersonville pay many fees besides taxes, to include lease agreements, property maintenance, garbage fees, etc. Why should Broken Paddle Outfitters be exempt? The $2,000 donation per year during the 5-year lease agreement to Hendersonville Parks Department is not conducive with what I can perceive as additional costs the city may incur. And 6, the docks to be installed by Broken Paddle Outfitters would tend to hinder or restrict local residents in the use of their waterways and the docks that are currently available to residents. Thank you. Please consider all my concerns, which I have presented in your vote regarding this matter.
Thank you, Stephen. Can you give me 1 second? I need to talk to our city attorney about an item. So next item on the agenda is our consent agenda, which has 4 items, including the items about Broken Paddle. But there's a possibility that there is a typo in there. So what I'm going to ask y'all to let me do is ask our Parks Director, Andy Gilly, if that's correct or if that's incorrect. Andy, so in our third whereas on page 11, which I realize you don't have this is in the resolution, it says 7.4% of net sales, but in the staff report it says 7.5. Which, oh, and the donation amount is different as well. What I'm curious about is the resolution as is provided in the packet, is that correct? If it's not, we need to pull it out of the consent agenda and consider it separately. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Jason.
7.5 is what we charge all the concessionaires,
Okay.
which is in the staff report. So
it-
yes, the
is the-
resolution will need to be amended.
Okay. So,
And then the 2,000 is the total that matches the staff report, $1,000 two times per year for a total of 2,000.
So my question to our city attorney is, do we pull it out from the consent agenda? And then I would entertain a motion for an amendment to change it 7.4 to 7.5. That's my question to our city attorney. Or is this a typo that can just be fixed later on?
It's an amendment.
Okay.
Well, you can amend the agenda by 2/3 vote, but if you wanted to keep it in the consent agenda,
I'd pull it out.
okay, yeah, I would.
So, what Lance thinks we need to do is that, at this point, since we've set the agenda, probably the most expedient way to deal with this is to amend the agenda, which requires a 2/3 vote. And it would be to pull this item out. We could consider it now, we could consider it after this consent agenda, we could consider it later on. Whoever makes that motion can decide where we should consider it. When we get to that item, then I would entertain a motion to change it 7.4 to 7.5.
I move to pull it from the consent agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Collins and a second from Alderman Robertson to pull it from the consent agenda and place it where?
As number, well, I guess it would be number 4, because we'd have 3 consent agenda.
Okay,
As the first one under 8, ordinances and resolutions.
okay. So did y'all hear that? So the motion and the second is to pull item 1 and essentially, and then renumber everything. Make this item 4, but it would not be part of the consent agenda. So Alderman Sassy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. In light of some of the concerns Mr. Rozak had, I would like to request we actually do postpone this until the next meeting so we can look into some of those concerns, but that would require an amendment to her request. But, or do we have to pull it out first?
Yeah, you can't amend, you can amend change to the agenda.
An amendment to the amendment?
Yeah, you could do that, and it would be that we would remove this from the consent agenda and not consider it tonight.
Yeah.
If that's the amendment, if that's the motion you want to make.
Yes, I would like to make that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend from Alderman Collins, and that would be that we pull it out of the consent agenda and not consider it at all. So, do we have a second?
Wait, what?
So the motion is to pull it out of the consent agenda and not consider it at all tonight.
She made
Okay, so I'm sorry, the motion right now, we do not have a second for it right now. If we don't get a second, we'll come back to the motion that was made by Alderman Collins and seconded by Alderman Robertson. Do we have a second for Alderman Sassy's motion? Okay, so we have a second from somebody down there, Alderman Bergdorf. Okay, so now we need to, we can speak on any part of it, to be honest with you. Alderman Sassy, do you want to speak any more on this, on your motion?
No.
Okay. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. As a sponsor, can I just defer until next meeting?
Yeah, you could withdraw it.
I would like to withdraw.
And you are the only sponsor.
Yes.
Okay. Nah, you can do that anytime. Okay, so, the sole sponsor is gonna withdraw, and it's up to him when he wants to bring it back, since that's what he has asked to do.
I would like to bring it back October 24th.
Okay, I will put it on the proposed agenda October 24th. So, we are still in consent agenda. The motion to amend from Alderman Collins and the second from Alderman Robertson, that is no longer valid since that item is not on the agenda anymore. So now what we're voting on is the consent agenda, items 2, 3, and 4, and that's Resolution 2023-37, a resolution ratifying the Parks Department background checks policy approved by the Parks Board. Reading of Resolution 2023-38, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Live Barn, Inc. for providing live stream video services at the inline hockey rinks at Volunteer Park. Resolution 2023-39, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to host the Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association baseball and softball state championships. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
We have a motion to consider those 3 items, and a motion from Alderman Waters, and I think there's a second from Alderman Goodwin. Alderman Peterson, go ahead.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving Resolution 2023-37, 2023-38, and 2023-39, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Those pass unanimously. Thank you all. Now have finished with the consent agenda. Now we're on to item 5, which is ordinance and resolutions. This is second and final reading of ordinance 2023-21, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 14, Chapter 1, regarding video recordings of municipal planning commission meetings. Alderman Martin. Motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Martin, a second from Alderman Sassy. Any discussion on this? Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, Alderman Martin, I have a question for you, being on the Planning Commission. What does this change in the modus operandi of the Planning Commission? The present procedures?
It doesn't change anything under the current procedures. It's what we've been, it's what we've been doing in the past. And so it just kind of codifies that we continue doing that. There was just some miscommunication on YouTube that this kind of clears up, so
Okay.
there's no cost difference.
And may I ask our COO of the fiscal impact of this ordinance, if there is any? What's the fiscal impact of this ordinance?
So based on this ordinance alone, there will be no fiscal impact.
Thank you, that's all.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Garza.
Yeah, just a question, and Michael, I'll ask you, but we probably need it says, however, we still aren't able to do the exhibits correctly. Has that been fixed yet? Do you know?
Right, so the language includes site plans and other exhibits. Whatever we're discussing, it'll be presented on the screen like it is, and it'll also be included on YouTube, so everybody can see what we're discussing.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Garza. Thank you, Alderman Martin. Any other discussion? All those in favor of a second and final reading of ordinance 2023-21, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. I'm voting against that. And also, also Alderman Waters voted no. And Alderman Garden, just show her is not present, please. So that passes with a majority vote. Are we good? So me, I believe the only people voting against are me and Alderman Waters, okay? And then Alderman Garden, not present, okay? Yeah. 10 to 2, yes, okay. Now we're at first reading ordinance 2023-23. This is an ordinance amending ordinance 2023-11 to reflect final year adjustments to the city's 2024 fiscal year budget. I so move. We have a motion, we have a second from Alderman Waters. Any discussion? All those in favor of ordinance 2023-23, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. I appreciate that. Also, Alderman Garden is present. And now we have resolution 2023-35. This is a resolution to revise and update the fund balance and reserve policy for the city of Hendersonville. Alderman Dixon.
Thank
Motion?
you. Yes, so moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Dixon and a second from Alderman Garza. Any discussion?
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. This resolution is just to update our fund balance policy to actually what we did over the course of creating our fiscal year budget this year. So it previously, we created it in 2021, and the categories were prudent reserve and infrastructure reserve. Now it's going to be prudent reserve, infrastructure reserve, and public safety reserve.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Sassy.
Thank you, Mayor. So, reviewing through this, on page 98 is where I'm at.
Voted on this.
And, well, I'm gonna want to make an amendment here, Mayor.
Oh, no, we took off the agenda. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the premise of this is very, very important. I just want to change the percentages here a bit, and primarily due to, I think we need to fund our public safety. I feel like we need to have priority to our public safety. We've got a lot of expenses coming up with fire engines or apparatuses. Got to use the right terminology there, I guess, right? And you know, the police are in need of additional equipment as well. So I would like to put a priority on those and change those percentages. Like I'm fine with the amounts there. I think that's great. Those amounts look right. And based on the line at the very end of 98, it says once a reserve assignment is meeting the financial goal of this policy, funds shall no longer be allocated to that reserve and instead shall be distributed equally to the other reserves that have not met the reserve goal. So what I'm going to propose is that it's putting a priority on the public safety to fill that one up first, and then it will continue to fill up the remaining reserves proportionally as well. So I would like to change those percentages to public safety is 35%, rainy day is 30%, and infrastructure is 35%.
So, and that's on page 98?
Yes, sir.
So, Jess, are you following with us here? So page 98, that's, I'm gonna come back to make the motion, I just wanna make sure I'm clear. So the part in red, is that current or is that proposed? You're right.
Additions are in red.
Okay.
If it has a strike through, it is what we're deleting, and we did that to show every deletion and show every addition.
Okay.
So what it says at the bottom of 98, public safety reserve 25%, rainy day reserve 25%, infrastructure reserve 50%. Mr. Sassy is proposing an amendment to those percentages.
Okay. So, Alderman Sass, can you tell me what your amendment, what the changes would be again?
Yes, so the public safety I'm proposing 35%, rainy day 30%, and infrastructure 35%. And then once the public safety is filled up, because the reserve on that one is 6 million, while the other two are 12 million and 15 million, the amount that would have been going to public safety would then begin going to rainy day and infrastructure. So it makes sure that we're filling up our public safety first.
Okay.
The total time for all of them to fill up is going to be the same, but it just puts priority on that one. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask our city attorney for some wording. So how does that change? How do we? Sure, so if you're on page 98, change the percentage at the bottom to 35, 30, and 35, and we're working on the wording below that. 35, 30, and 35.
That's
Okay,
right.
okay. So how do we change that wording?
Why would it need to be changed?
35. 35, 30, 35.
So Alderman Sassy, tell us the wording that should go immediately after that. Let's strike everything in red.
No. It does not change anything else except for those percentages.
That's all it changes.
I was just reading what it says right
Okay.
after that, where it
Appreciate that.
says once
Okay.
one reserve has fulfilled its financial goal, the funds then get proportionally allocated to the other reserves.
Okay, so you're suggesting we change three numbers. Instead of 25, 25, 50, it'd be 35, 30, and 35.
That's right.
Okay, do we have a second? We need a second before we can discuss this item.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a second from Alderman Garza. Alderman Garza, do you want to speak on this?
Yeah, I just had a question too. If we have two at 35%, they would be allocated equally.
That's right. So it'd be 70% there. These have to equal 100%.
No, I meant if you got two at 35 and,
Okay.
and the surplus comes in, which one would you go to first?
Well, so if there's $1,000, 350 would go to public safety, 300 would go to rainy day, and 350 go to infrastructure.
Oh, you just divide them equally?
Yeah.
Okay, I was talking about the surplus.
Oh, well, we fund these from the surplus.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, Alderman
all.
Garza, thank you.
I think those two
wording
be
is-
equal, yeah.
Okay, Alderman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask Jesse a question? Would this pose any problem to our audit for the state requirement to change these?
No.
It's doable?
It is, we came up with that formula with public safety being 25% because it's a smaller amount. So infrastructure was given 50% because it's trying to reach a goal of 15 million. But it's just a policy that BOMA has control over.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, Jesse. By this amendment, it will take longer to get the infrastructure reserve up to muster, correct?
Yes, sir.
could that endanger some infrastructure projects?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't look as though we had as much in infrastructure reserve. These are pretty light, what we'd call reservations or assignments that actually the finance director has the discretion to revert these into unassigned fund balance. But yeah, so, you know, the reason that we came up with a 50% when we were discussing it was because these infrastructure projects take such a large amount of money as an inflation hits. Project costs go up and up. So we just said, hey, what was kind of, you know, equal based on the amounts? What are the needs we see? We see more of a one-time need in the infrastructure reserve getting built. The rainy day and the public safety actually would probably work in tandem, because if we're going through an economic downturn, we're probably going to dip into both of those reserves. So that was kind of the logic behind. There's kind of 50% in infrastructure and then 50% between the other two. At the end of the day, it's the same amount of money. But yeah, Alderman Sassy's correct. At 35% to public safety, it would fill that pot up first, and your infrastructure reserve would lag behind.
Does changing the percentages affect any discretionary spending at the end of the year or for the budget?
No.
So I'm concerned that approving this amendment will jeopardize future capital projects capital projects, such as whatever we do at Exit 8, how quickly we can get to improving New Shackle Island Road, and the other infrastructure projects. So I cannot support this because I think the staff has worked out these percentages and they believe that these are appropriate to get to the levels of reserves that we need. So as a result of that, I cannot vote for this amendment. I think the staff recommendation is a good one, and I don't want to do anything as chairman of capital projects to jeopardize any of the capital projects that we have to try to address traffic and congestion in this city. So thank you, Mayor. I can't support this amendment.
Thank you, Alderman Robertson. Any other discussion? Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Robertson, would you have any other figures in mind that you could adjust this to?
No, I mean, I think the staff has gone through this and analyzed based upon what we need in a reserve, the percentage to be able to maintain that reserve. I'm afraid that if this amendment passes, that our infrastructure reserve will have difficulty getting to the $15 million that we need to make sure these projects go forward in case of inflation or add-on construction cost. So I think the staff went over these. Did this go to the, this was approved by the Finance Committee, correct? Was it unanimously?
Hold on.
So I'm going to go with the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee. So no, I'm comfortable with what the staff and what the Finance Committee did, and I don't want to do anything to jeopardize us completing infrastructure projects, such as straightening out Walton Ferry Road. I don't want to run into that danger.
Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you.
Alderman Sassy, would you consider adjusting your figures?
Go ahead.
Yes, my goal with this was to put priority on the public safety, but I'm willing to adjust those figures for, what did you have in mind?
Just so we might have something that's more in
What-
agreement.
What if we brought infrastructure back to 50%? And, because in looking at these three, rainy day seems the least important to me. public safety, for me, is the most important, but I know infrastructure is the most important for many on this board. So if we return infrastructure to 50% and made public safety 35 and rainy day 15.
Who made the second on that? Was that Alderman Alderman Garza? Alderman Garza, are you okay seconding that change in the motion? If not, I'll ask for a second from anybody else.
I'm okay with part of that, actually, so I'm with the infrastructure thing. I still think 15% for any is too low, so I could do 20 there and 30 at public safety.
I would make that compromise.
Okay, so we're at 30, 20, and 50? And I have a calculator in front of me, and that tells me that equals 100? So we have a motion and a second that we change those three lines to 30, 20, and 50. Alderman Peterson, I'm going to come back to you. You're the one who was speaking before we made these changes. Go ahead.
I think that's very appropriate. I'd like to second Mr. Garza's new adjustment, adjusted figures, 30%, 20%, and 50%.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Peterson. Thank you, Alderman Garza, Alderman Sassy, Alderman Waters.
I just have a question with my colleague. Did you discuss this with finance before you brought this before Bowman tonight?
Is this for who are you directing that to, Alderman Sassy and Alderman Garza?
My colleague that brought the amendment,
Okay.
Sassy.
Alderman Sassy. And by the way, by the way, I'm a little bit flexible on this. All the conversation, you're addressing me. But if it helps things move along, I allow the questions back and forth, okay? If somebody asks you a question, you have no obligation to answer it. Alderman Sassy.
No.
Alderman Waters. Thank you, Alderman Sassy.
It tells me a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Dixon, you asked a question a minute ago, and we didn't get a good audio on that. Can you go ahead and do that again?
What question?
So Alderman Robertson asked if this ordinance had been considered by the Finance Committee.
Yes, myself, Alderman Bergdorf, and Alderman Sassy voted unanimously.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, so our amendment is on page 98 to change those percentages at the bottom to public safety reserve 30%, rainy day reserve 20%, infrastructure reserve to 50%. Go ahead, Alderman Robertson.
I'm sorry, Jesse. The rainy day reserve is something that's real important to the comptroller. The rainy day reserve will help this city if we fall into a recession, pay our employees, correct? Operating expenses. It helps cover operating expenses if revenues do not match the projected forecast.
That's what the rainy day is set up for. We will, in addition to the reserve policy, you don't see it in here, but the comptroller's recommendation for 2 months of working cash is separate from this policy. So we'll have that set aside to meet the comptroller's recommendation. But yes, if we get into a pinch, that is the first reserve we would hit if we have an economic downturn.
Thank you, Alderman Robertson. Any other discussion? Alderman Sassy. Hold on. Oh, sorry. There we go.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I just wanted to reiterate one point on this. Yes, the new adjustment to the amendment is just changing these figures by 0.5 or by 5%, moving 5% to public safety from the rainy day. So it's only reducing rainy day by 5%. And once public safety fills up and meets the goal of $6 million, that the funds each year that would have gone to public safety would then be distributed to the rainy day and the infrastructure. So over time, all three would fill up in the exact same amount of time. That's all I wanted to reiterate. Thanks.
Alderman Sassy, thank you. Any other discussion? So we're going to do this electronically. So the motion is on page 98 to change those percentages. Instead of 25, 25, and 50, change it to 30, 25, and 50. So all those in favor of the amendment, 30, 20, and 50, thank you. All those in favor, press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. Okay, so that passes 7-6. Voting in favor, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, Peterson, Martin, Sassy, Garza, and Goodwin. Voting opposed, Alderman Robertson, Waters, Collins, Garten, Dixon, and myself. We are back on the main motion. Did you get all those? Okay, thank you. So we're back on, Resolution 2023-35, as amended at this point. Okay, Jason, electronically? Okay. So we have the one amendment that we just passed from page 98. And now we're voting on the main motion of Resolution 2023-35. This is a resolution to revise and update the fund balance and reserve policy for the city of Hendersonville. All in favor, press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. So that passes with a majority vote. Those opposing, Alderman Waters and Robertson, and everybody else in favor with 13 votes. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Annette. Now we're on item 8. This is resolution 2023-42. This is a resolution of intent to exercise first right of refusal on the purchase of certain real estate located on Saundersville Road in our city. Alderman Peterson, a motion? We have a motion from Alderman Peterson and a second from Alderman Sassy. Am I correct on that? Okay, do we have a second? We have a second from Alderman Collins. Alderman Collins, go ahead.
When we were first informed about this possibility, Alderman Sassy asked how the aldermen in Ward 5 felt about it. And I said at that time that I was disinclined. We didn't know why we had first right of refusal or really anything about it, but I had the caveat that I needed to hear from my constituents, and I have heard from my constituents, and they do overwhelmingly support the purchase of this land. One of my objections to it as a individual is that, or was that, I didn't support the purchase of Beatty Farm, and this feels very similar to me. And it was pointed out to me by a constituent that this land is not restricted to be passive parkland, so it is a different purchase than the Beatty Farm land. I also want to know how we're going to pay for it, and so I'd like to ask Jesse what our unallocated fund balance currently is and what the comptroller's recommendation is.
So our unassigned fund balance from our last audit's over $20 million. We're going through our audit right now to determine this fiscal year, so I don't have that answer. But last year it was $20 million.
And what is the comptroller's recommendation?
16.67% of your operating budget, which changes from year to year. I think that's about $9 million for the current budget that we're in.
Right. And so this is a one-time expense, so it doesn't come out of the operating budget, so there doesn't have to be a renewable source of revenue for it, like there does salaries and so on and so forth. And given that I recall a study that I've been exposed to that was done several years ago that indicated 3 locations where we might need a fire department in the a fire station in the future, being Mansker Farm, the Cages Bend, South Danes area, and the Saundersville Road area. So this is an opportunity to purchase land that maybe we don't do anything with it for 15 to 20 years, but we might be kicking ourselves at that time when this land costs a lot more to purchase. So overall, I am going to support the purchase of this land. I don't want to say we have the money because it's about your priorities, and our next budget cycle is going to be very tight. So it's, do you prioritize this or do you not prioritize this? But we have the ability with an $11 million over our unallocated fund balance requirements from the comptroller. We do have the ability to spend $432,000. So I'm going to support this and represent Ward 5 who wants this land to be purchased. Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
My wife told me tonight not to talk too much, so I'm trying to follow her advice. It's always good advice. Last meeting, I bored you to death with a long, drawn-out speech on what I see as a brewing storm, budgetary storm coming to this city. I talked about it in a storm. You know, in a storm, if you're in a boat in a storm, you batten down the hatches. You don't take on more weight. You try to weather out the storm. And I sure don't see this as weathering out the storm. I stuck my neck out and said we need a referendum on a sales tax because this storm is coming. If this motion passes tonight, then what are the citizens of this city going to say? Well, Mr. Robertson, you said, and the board voted, that a storm was coming and that we need to watch our dollars and that we need to, that we need more revenues. And now you're saying that we have enough revenues to purchase some vacant land. So I believe, as chairman of the Capital Projects, that a vote in favor of this tonight may well kill any possibility we have for a referendum to increase sales tax. Not only that, number two, I think a vote in favor of this action tonight makes it more unlikely for any improvement at Exit 8. Again, we got to set our priorities. So in Ward 5, you have to ask yourself this question. Is vacant land more important than trying to find and fund a fix for Exit 8? Now I have a question, if I may ask our Parks Director, if he could come, or Jesse, either one. I've got a park question to ask. He may not want to answer this.
Andy, you're probably the better one.
So my question is this: if our Parks Director don't want to come up, we did a park study recently. Back was it 2 years ago? And in that study it said that we had, I believe that we had plenty of park space. Is that correct, Andy? That we had sufficient with Beatty Farms, with Durham Farms Park that we haven't developed, with also the park that Forest Park has donated to the city. I mean, what did that study, the results of that study, tell us about the need for more parkland?
It did not identify purchasing land as a need for the park system.
Yeah, and how much land do we have at Forest Park? Do you recall how much land was donated to the city for a trail and for a park?
I voted against Forest Park. I don't know. I do not remember. I want to say it's
seemed like it's 20
to 30 acres.
Yeah.
Rings a bell. That is not buildable land. It's not going to be land you're going to put ball fields or anything on, to the best of my knowledge. More suited for trails and maybe even horses and camping, walking and biking trails, similar to the hillside property adjacent to the farm at Heritage Park.
Is this land near the border of the city-county boundary?
Forest Park?
No, this 7 acres that is,
This land, to my knowledge, is directly across the street from Country Hills Golf Course
so it's near the edge of the
on
city property.
Saundersville Road.
It's near the edge of city property, isn't it?
Yes, Long Hollow Pike, I believe. You get down to Station Camp would be the border of the city, so.
If I could interrupt a little bit, across the street, there are portions that are not in the city.
Yeah.
On this side of the street, it's all in the city until you get to William Lee Golden's house.
To where?
It's all in the city until you get to William Lee Golden's house, at the intersection. But across the street, there are parts that are not in the city.
So it's more near the edge of the county property than any park that we have, in my evaluation. But so, again, guys, think long and hard about this. Our own study says that we don't have an immediate need for more park. Our own study that we commissioned. And again, I think that the aldermen in Ward 6 and Ward 5, that we have to consider what is the most important place to put our money, Exit 8 or this park. And in my view, Exit 8 is more important. And I'm going to do everything I can, and I'm doing everything I can to try to get the city more revenue, that we can complete some of these projects and move these projects along. But this, to me, does not aid that effort. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with everything that Alderman Robertson said, and I may step on your toes a little bit when I'm or overlap with you, but just a few things I would like to point out. We don't have a valid plan for the use of this land, and I realize that we're trying to act quickly, but quickly is not always prudent. I wish our vote earlier tonight would have helped us delay this a couple weeks, because I think I would be more, if we were voting to purchase this land for public safety, a reason for public safety, I would be inclined to vote yes. But we don't know that, right? We're just buying land. We have no idea what we're going to do with it. I also viewed the lot, and I haven't looked at a topical map, but the lot slopes up at the back. Did anybody go by there and see it? I mean, there's a big, huge hill as part that touches the boundary of that land. And so that lot slopes up, and there's a huge hill. It's country hills, right? So I don't think all of the 7 acres would be usable for a park unless you put some money in it. The city already owns unused land. And Alderman Robertson pointed that out. We own 60 acres at Durham Farms. 60 acres is just one example. So I have a hard time understanding why we would purchase more at this cost. I have a really hard time with that. Where would this almost $500,000 come from? Out of our reserve. We just spent a very laborious budget season, nickel and diming, folks. I've gone through 3 budget seasons, and never was it this difficult this year, and it should have been difficult. We did a great job, but this $500,000 is not in our budget. Again, with that in mind, and we just talked about our reserve funds, it's for public safety and rainy day reserves. This is not one of those things. Lastly, to cover our cost of inflation, we are experiencing hard. We just voted to ask the citizens to vote on a referendum to raise our sales tax so that we could avoid a future property tax increase. I have a really hard time voting yes to spend this money on a small plot of land when our economic outlook is grim. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Garten.
Thank you. Well, I would love to purchase this land. The response that I've received from Ward 5 residents was a big no, especially like Alderman Dixon just said. We're asking them to vote for a sales tax increase or else we're saying that there's going to possibly be a property tax increase. And for that reason, I can't support this.
Alderman Garten, thank you. Alderman Waters, I had your light turned on. Did I skip you?
Yeah, I'm waiting on you.
I apologize for that. Alderman Waters, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Jesse, would you come to the podium and give me and the board an idea about inflation on all your departments for the coming year, like trash, like your contractors that you use? How does that look coming up in 24?
Yeah, as I've told the board repeatedly, every contract that's up for renewal is coming in at higher costs. Paving came in 35% higher. That's why we cut 35% of the paving list. Trash is expected to increase 50 to 100%.
How much?
50 to 100%.
Oh, God.
You know, we're going to go out to bid soon on that, so we'll see. But that's just initially what we've been told. So we've seen increases to keep up with inflation. Inflation has been really high these last couple of years. It's cooling down now, but a lot of the contracts are now catching up for the past years of inflation.
And your vendors that you use, they're going up, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
And here we got about 7 capital projects. One of them's been on the board for 20 years, and that's the Walton Ferry, Old Shackle Island intersection. My colleague talks about Ward 5. I'm talking about Ward 6, how that's affecting the residents over there. We got a lot to be thinking about because we're going towards a property tax increase, the way that some of our colleagues want to spend money. We better take another look, be more conservative, and get some of these projects that's already on our books done. So, Mayor, I can't support this. Thank you.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Alderman Martin.
Hey, Jesse, can I talk to you real quick? Just curious, if the city were to purchase the property, would the city, if they decided they couldn't use it, be able to sell the property?
I don't think we would have any, I don't think we would go into a purchase with a restriction on the property.
So, in regards to Exit 8, if we got to a point where we needed to have cash on hand or to do a swap with the desirable property with the undesirable right-of-way property, would this be a benefit?
Like holding it as an asset to sell at a future point in time.
That's correct.
Well, at the time, obviously holding land, you know, would have its value. I have not studied the particulars of this piece of land.
You have one day to.
Yeah, so I don't know this parcel by itself, it would be as valuable as the whole. Obviously, I haven't studied it, but absolutely, if you buy a piece of property, you could sell it at a later date.
That's pretty cool. That's my 2 cents. I think it's cash on hand. It also opens up doors for you guys if you want to do a land swap. Thanks.
Alderman Martin, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, I have to address that. I don't think the city should be in the property purchasing to make profit. I believe in smaller government. I don't believe that the city should go out and speculate with public funds that we might make money on it. So I just had to make that point. Philosophically, I think this is a move toward big government. You know, we're spending public money on the whim that we might make some money in the future on it. So with all due respect, I think that is a dangerous precedent.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Any other discussion? Alderman Sassy.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, as a sponsor of this ordinance, I just want to bring up a couple things, and I appreciate everyone speaking on this and your viewpoint on this. The reason, and I'm not about spending money. Every other option or opportunity we've had to not spend money, I think I've shown I take that, right? This is more of an investment in our city, in my view. It's more of an investment in our city, in our residents. That city of Hendersonville is not getting any bigger. It may be growing in population, but in land, it's not getting any bigger. We have an agreement with the county that we're not going to rezone any property from the county into the city. So the amount of land that's inside the city is the amount of land that's going to be inside the city 30, 40 years from now. So there's the opportunity to now pick up a piece of land at a fairly reasonable rate, 7.5 acres, for $450,000 that we could utilize at a later date for parks. Maybe, we just had a soccer club who wanted to have a covered soccer arena over by Knox-Stoss Elementary. Well, that got shot down. So maybe it's for that. Maybe it's a new fire station that's needed over there in the future. Or our police station is in dire need of replacement. Maybe this is where the police station goes. Maybe it's a dog park. But, Mayor, could I not be interrupted while I'm speaking?
Yeah, let's let the person who has the floor go ahead and speak. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I believe we just passed a code of conduct not one meeting ago that we respect each other, and I'm feeling very disrespected right now.
Thank you.
I waited my turn and let you speak your piece. Now let me do the same.
Alderman Sassy, thank you. Go ahead.
We're not always going to agree, but we can at least let each other speak how we feel about a particular ordinance. Currently, this property is zoned for residential, which is 3 units per acre, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And as I've looked into this many times, residential does, which would be about 21 homes. You add that to the 11.5 acres, you're looking at about 50 homes. And residential never costs, or never earns our city money. We are looking at possible impact fees for residential, but that's not enacted yet. So the opportunity to purchase this land and then utilize it as a need for the city, or to leverage it at a later date, is appealing to me. Land is only going to get more expensive. I'm not saying we're buying this land to hold it over someone's head or use it as a bargaining chip for Exit 8 or any other project, but we'd have that ability. It's a prime piece of real estate that we could potentially utilize later down the road and just sit on for now until we found a good use for it. I don't know what that usage right now is. But having the if we don't take the opportunity to grab it now, the opportunity is gone forever. Thank you.
Alderman Sassy, thank you. Any other discussion? So the motion we've got is Resolution 2023-42. This is a resolution of intent to exercise first right of refusal on the purchase of property on Saundersville Road. Jason, if you can pull this up electronically for us, I'd appreciate that. And all those in favor of this resolution, press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. So that fails 4-9. If you keep it up there, Jason, I'd appreciate it. Those in favor, Alderman Peterson, Martin, Sassy, and Collins. Those opposed, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, Garza, Dixon, Goodwin, Garten, Waters, Robertson, and myself. So that fails. Thank you all. Next, we're on other agenda items. You received by email and also in your packet an assessment from our interim city attorney. I thought that was very comprehensive and enlightening. One of the items that drew my attention is that I had always thought that position would include a component of lobbying for the city, especially when there's some items that frankly are more complex than our regular staff can understand when they're going in front of the General Assembly. Lance's assessment said that's two different skill sets. That's not really what a city attorney does, so I appreciate that in bringing that to light for us. So there may be a time down the road where I think that we may need to hire a lobbyist to look out for us, and we've done that in the past, and it has proved very beneficial for us. I think we spent, this is relying on my memory, which is dangerous. I think we spent $20,000, and it benefited us to the tune of about $140,000 when we hired a lobbyist before. I'm not saying I'm going to do that tomorrow, but I think that's something that we should consider down the road. But Lance's assessment says that the city attorney should continue to be part-time. We raised his pay from what is initially it was set as part of the 6% increase for all employees. So so that was increased when we set the budget. But if you could, Annette's going to hand something out here, and this is going to lead to my motion here. And I forwarded this to you by email earlier, and I appreciate that we didn't have conversation by email. I appreciate that very much. So currently the position of city attorney, as Lance is filling in the interim basis, is it's part-time. There are no medical benefits, there's no retirement benefits, there's no sick time or vacation benefits. We pay $2,800 per week, and that's at $160 per hour. It's 17.5 hours per week. We did increase that, like I said, by 6% when we increased the pay of all employees. Lance is an employee. He's a part-time employee, and we have other part-time employees in the city, and obviously we have many, many full-time employees. In conversations with Jesse and other staff and looking at the assessment that Lance provided for us, the 17.5 hours needs to be increased, and there's a couple reasons. Is that just what he's been doing lately shows that 17.5 hours hasn't cut it in the past couple months, and that we foresee a need, especially with some of our short-term rental cases. He spent a couple of hours just in court today, unexpectedly, on a short-term rental case today, that's going to happen more often. Yeah, that was on a different short-term rental case, not the one that we had anticipated. So what I'm asking you to do is, if you look at the paragraph in the middle of the page there, is increase that to 20 hours, which would mean that sometime before the end of the fiscal year, we would need to increase that line item by $14,000. We would adjust the budget portion of that salary. And we would have to do that before the end of the fiscal year. Likely we will do that in our mid-year budget adjustment. And I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we appoint Lance Ray as our permanent city attorney. That would be effective October 22nd. He would still be a part-time city employee, no medical benefits, no retirement, no sick time or vacation benefits. He would enter his time like all our employees do. He would enter that online, and his fee would be $169.59 per hour, as it is right now, but we'd increase that to 20 hours per week, averaged over the entire year. He may have 22 hours a week. We're okay with that if it makes sense. He may have 10 hours a week. We're okay if that makes sense. But averaged over the year, it would not exceed 20 hours per week. The reason that I need to make that motion, and I appreciate many, many people who have said that they would like to co-sponsor a resolution or ordinance, but the reason is that it's required in this situation that I bring a person to the board for your approval and ask you to vote to support that. You have the option of rejecting that. In that case, I'd be responsible for bringing somebody else. So I'm going to make that motion. We have a second from Alderman Peterson. Any discussion on that? Alderman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Something you said sparked a question I had. You said that he would be an employee, but yet he's getting no medical, no dental, no retirement, and in Lance's assessment, which was very good, he lays it out part-time, 1099 or W-2. So would he be a 1099? Because that is not an employee.
Right.
So will he be a W-2?
He will be a W-2. I said that correctly.
I just want to make sure that we don't
Appreciate that.
enter into have a situation
Yep.
like we've had in the past where then I am an employee, so I can ask the state for retirement. So,
Appreciate that. We have no part-time employees that get benefits. And
Okay.
and we will continue that.
okay.
Appreciate that. Okay. Any other discussion? So we have a motion, a proper second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of appointing Lance Ray as our permanent city attorney effective October 22nd with these 5 items as part of the compensation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for your work, and we look forward to continuing with you.
Thank you.
Yep. We're on to brief committee reports. Our general committee, Chairman Peterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. General Committee met tonight. We had several items on the agenda, and if I may, I would like to have Jason Gallo give that report.
Coincidentally, he is right here walking to the podium as you speak.
Oh, that's perfect timing. Thank you so much. And if y'all have any questions, please ask him. Thank you, Mayor. And
All
thank
right.
you,
Go ahead,
Jason.
Jason.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
I'll try and keep this as brief as I can. We had a full agenda. We used almost the entire hour. So we reviewed a resolution to have the Administrative Services Department apply for a Public Entity Partner Cybersecurity Grant, and that was approved to move forward to BOMA. We did a reading of the resolution on amending the job classification table. This is not only changing positions within finance and a restructure there, but also within IT and also with codes enforcement with the police department. So that was also approved. Then we did the resolution, which you all just discussed here, the intent to exercise the first right of refusal. And that was approved in favor with 1 opposed, so 2-1 on that one. We did resolution 2344, a resolution to amend the Mayfair Phase 2 final development, and that was approved. And then we had some discussion on the PEP the PEP safety grant. So about a month and a half ago, I brought before the board a grant that was offered through PEP, and just the update there is that we got approved for the full $4,000 reimbursement. So I'm working with finance to get that money, and then we'll work with PEP to get that check cut. Others was a discussion on, and a future discussion about the land at Mansker Farms. So that was postponed for another time. And then some other business as far as discussing the court naming with Curtis Lincoln, and just an update on that, as well as some additional questions for planning on the impact fees. So that's the recap of General Committee.
Jason, thank you.
Yep.
Chairman Peterson, thank you. Chairman Goodwin, Public Safety Committee.
Yes, we met tonight. We have an ordinance coming before BOMA soon regarding some changes to the fireworks in Hendersonville. We passed that to BOMA with a positive recommendation. We also passed a resolution to come to BOMA with a positive recommendation for the mayor to enter into an agreement, mutual aid agreement with Shackle Island Volunteer Fire Department and Number 1 Volunteer Fire Department for services that our city provides to help them. And we also had an update about the traffic at Burris Elementary. The new traffic route is working much better. And that concludes my report.
Chairman Goodwin, thank you. Alderman Martin, Planning Commission report.
Good evening, everyone. The first project we looked at was a simple revision to Indian Lake Center Phase 3 final development plan. They just wanted to add daycare as an acceptable use. That obviously was approved. The next project, depending on the slide. All right, we'll start with the Stonecrest. So this is a project that brings in 139 new townhomes. This is just on the north side of Exit 8. This is part of a final development plan called Stonecrest. I want to be clear that this was approved in 2007 on behalf of the Planning Commission. We were simply looking at colors and stuff like that. So that was pretty much the extent of our review. The original final development plan had 136 single-family homes along with 139 townhomes. These are the townhomes. So that's going to be 7 trips per day, another 973 cars onto Saundersville Road. And this echoes Alderman Roberson's concern about Exit 8. So we're going to have to deal with Saundersville Road here shortly. I did ask about any impact fees that they paid back then. I didn't get a clear answer on that. It's David Lucky with Southeastern Building Corp. Is the owner. Is there the next project? This one I'm really excited about. So this is Mayfair Phase 2. I think you guys are going to love it too. So this is the final development plan that is over by, I got to go backwards, by the Bradford Beatty House. Bradford Berry House. The top one, and these are my notes to kind of clearly articulate what the transaction was or what was being proposed. The top one is what was already developed. It's originally approved. And then if you look at the bottom one, what they are doing is instead of developing that into the commercial that they have approved, they're donating it to the city. So I'm very excited about that. And I don't know if they want to be recognized. I'd love to show them appreciation for that. So that's something that the city's going to get a chance to look at and see what they want to do with. So, and I think, the last one is going to be Vogue Towers. There's a tower in Drake's Creek that provides cell service. It is currently 180 feet high. They've asked for a waiver to go to 195 feet, and that is because Verizon wants to install their communications equipment on it, and that's much needed. So we talked to them about safety concerns. They walked us through the structural design of it, a double collapse, and the height of it doesn't require a light, and there was a huge benefit for the community, so we approved it. Any questions on the projects? All right, thank you.
Alderman Sassy?
I just wanted to verify, did you say it was going from 180 to 195?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just 15 feet more?
Just 15
Okay.
feet more.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sassy. Thank you, Alderman Martin. Appreciate that. So I want to update y'all first on Sumner County Resource Authority. We've had, Larry Wright has been a general manager for approximately 20 years. I think it might be like 18 or 19. We used to have an assistant manager there, but we have not had an assistant manager during that time. And Larry has decided he wanted to retire. He notified us that of a couple months ago. Here's our role with the Resource Authority. In the late 1970s, when the state and the federal government were closing down sort of mom and pop landfills is really what they were. Hendersonville had a landfill, which was over off Free Hill Road, and the city of Hendersonville closed that at that time, and this happened many places around the county. There was concern and, moderate panic about what was going to happen with trash. The solution was provided by a private act in the General Assembly that set up the Sumner County Resource Authority. It is owned in 7 portions. 2 of those portions, City of Hendersonville, 2 of those portions, City of Gallatin, 3 portions is the county. And that is also the makeup of the Board of Directors. When the Resource Authority was put together, the idea was to require all trash that was produced in Sumner County. It was a law that all trash produced in Sumner County had to go to the Resource Authority facility in Gallatin, and it was going to be burned to produce steam to help and provide power as well to the businesses nearby the Resource Authority property in Gallatin. And that worked reasonably well for some years. As the trash continued to grow, but the need for that steam was stagnant, the business didn't work as well as what it could have. So eventually, about 20 years ago, instead of a trash to energy facility, it became really just a transfer facility. At the same time, the EPA was cracking down on trash to energy facilities, is that those facilities had to become much, much cleaner. And the number I've heard many times is between $40 and $60 million is what it would have cost to upgrade the equipment back then. Again, this is 20 years ago. Upgrade the equipment back then, and there still wasn't the market for that steam that was being produced. So it didn't make sense for the Resource Authority to upgrade that equipment. So the Resource Authority became a place where trash was dumped, and then the Resource Authority paid to get rid of it at landfills nearby. Around that time, the law requiring trash in Sumner County to go there basically was relaxed or repealed, I'm not sure which. And so Hendersonville started looking at other options, and we found some cheaper options. So we are still 2/7 owner for the Resource Authority, but we have a better option in the current contract we have, sending it somewhere else. Every time we have to rebid for where our trash is going to go, we look at the Resource Authority and what's involved there. Our biggest problem is that the company who picks up our trash, typically it works better and financially better for us for them to take that trash to Nashville, because in the situation right now, their trucks are parked in Nashville. So we would have to pay Waste Pro more to pick up our trash, take it to Gallatin, and then go park their trucks in Nashville. That's one example that we've sort of had to endure for the past several years. We are still 2/7 owner of the Resource Authority. The chairmanship rotates between one of the representatives from the county, from Gallatin, and from Hendersonville, and currently I am chairman of the Resource Authority Board. We meet once a month. We go through financials. We really get into the weeds of what's going on in the Resource Authority. Fortunately, we have seen revenue climb dramatically over the past couple of years, just because Hendersonville has grown is what it comes down to. When you have more people, more businesses, you produce a lot more trash. And so we have some money in the bank. Unfortunately, that growth has caused long lines to build up at the Resource Authority, and so we are expanding that. City of Hendersonville is not on the hook for any of the cost of this. We're expanding the Resource Authority, basically moving beyond double capacity of what we have right now. So the timing is difficult with our general manager leaving. He had anticipated, he talked about September, we delayed him till October. We did interviews, we had a personnel committee. We offered the position to a person in Kentucky. He came down, took a look, had a lot of conversations. We were sure that he was going to say yes, and he said no. That worried me a lot as the chairman of the Resource Authority Board of Directors. I didn't want to run a Resource Authority on a day-to-day basis. We had 2 other good candidates. We had several other reasonably qualified candidates. We made an offer to a second person last night after a special call meeting, and that person accepted. So we feel very comfortable that we are in good shape. We feel comfortable that the expansion is going to happen. And I feel very comfortable that as far as the financial relationship that the City of Hendersonville has with the Resource Authority, it's going to continue the way it is. We spend, Tamara, I'm going to put you on the spot, $20,000, $40,000 a year on the Resource Authority? It's less than 100, am I right?
Yeah, it's less than 100.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact number.
Because we hire the Resource Authority to continue to monitor the landfill we used to have. That's a state requirement, is once you have a landfill, it doesn't matter who owns the property, you are always on the hook for what was put in that landfill. So we hire the Resource Authority to monitor that for us, and they monitor 2 other landfills as well. So that's really our only financial responsibility. We could actually hire somebody else to do it, but it just makes sense for us to hire the Resource Authority. I don't anticipate that anything's really going to change in our financial situation with them, but I just wanted to give you an update of where we are, because it's been a couple months since I have done that. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, the other part of my report is let's talk about our meetings coming up. We have a meeting right now scheduled for December 26th. We also have a meeting scheduled, yeah. I didn't ask for a show of hands. We also have a meeting scheduled 5 days after Thanksgiving. The reason I asked you all to come up with this now is because when we start looking at what's being proposed in committees, what's being talked about, and what's happening with staff, we sort of start moving a timeline of when these things can happen, as well as the possibility of calling special meetings. If we decide to cancel the one in December, or any time we decide to cancel them, I always let you know that I do have the authority to call a special meeting if I think that it's worthwhile. I do not have the authority to cancel meetings. So unless the board makes a motion to cancel meetings, we will currently have a second one in October, 2 in November, and 2 in December, including the one on December 26th. So any discussion on that, or any motions? Alderman Collins.
To cancel the meeting for December 26th.
So we have a motion from Alderman Collins and a second from Alderman Dixon to cancel the meeting on December 26th. Any discussion? All in favor of canceling the meeting on December 26th for this year, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Any other discussion, any other motions? Alderman Sassy.
The committees meeting on the day will have to decide for themselves if they're going to hold committee, correct?
Yes, I let the chairman decide when they will meet and what their agenda is going to be.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? We will move on to the next agenda item, and that is, oh, Jesse, I skipped you. I'm sorry. I was so excited to talk about the Resource Authority.
Thank you. I'll keep it rather brief. Congratulations, Mr. Ray.
Thanks, sir.
I want to spend just a minute talking about Mr. Ray. I know. You're going to have to endure it. I tell Lance all the time the most important position at the city is the city attorney. I brag on, our fire chief and Andy and Sarah and Jason and Tamara and Casey and all our directors. But when we don't know what to do, we call Mr. Ray, and he gets to be the final answer on all of our concerns and issues. And when Mr. Ray first came on, I was like, I don't know. Lance has never had a lot of experience as a city attorney, but I've heard that expression, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. You want people smarter than you around you, and that's the way I feel when I'm in the room with Lance. And his ability to adapt to what we do, to be responsive to our needs, to be responsive to BOMA's needs, has been impressive. There's times at 11:30 at night I'm emailing and not expecting a return email, and Lance is at his computer working and getting back to us. So his commitment is evident to the city, and what I see in Lance is that he wants to do what's best for the city. And if that means it's emailing back and working late and working weekends, that's what Lance does. And the 20 hours a week is like the first part of his week that he gives to the city. So I'm just very pleased to have been able to work with Lance. I've been impressed with his ability to just adapt very quickly and be intelligent. So thank you. But the best part about the city attorney is that he doesn't work for the COO. He works for BOMA. So any issues with his performance can be dealt with by the board. So that's definitely the best part of the city attorney. But I've appreciated working with Lance. Congratulations. And I know all the directors are excited about having you as full-time as well, too. So thank you. A couple other topics I want to touch on. We extended an offer for a traffic signal technician. So this will be the first traffic signal technician the city has ever had. We currently don't have one. We have one on standby, and sometimes they can get to us, and sometimes they're busy. So we are going to now have our own traffic signal technician. So Ms. Locke developed job descriptions for that. We've extended an offer, so we're very happy to have someone on board here. I'm sure we'll give you an update as he comes on board. And then 2 fee studies that are coming up that I just wanted to give you an update on. One is the impact fee study. I think we've already executed a contract for that, so we will be talking to the board about impact fees. And then Keith has done an analysis for his department on what it costs for projects to come in and for them to do a review. So we'll be coming to the board probably within a month, potentially within a month on both of those, at least at the committee level, with some planning fee updates as well. So just be expecting that. And then we plan to put trash bid documents out for bid probably next week. So that's coming. And then we'll just keep everyone apprised on the results of that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Jesse, we appreciate that. Alderman Sassy, during my report, I saw you yawn twice. Would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Well, we have Mr. Garza that
I'm sorry, it was Mr. Garza, I'm sorry. I was looking at your name and said,
I'd like to
boy.
make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, Alderman Sassy, would you like to make a second?
Yes, I would second that.
Would y'all like to withdraw your motions?
Oh,
We're gonna announce people.
Say it again?
Alderman
yes.
Alderman Peterson, we're finished with the agenda.
I just wanted.
Can you put on his microphone, please?
Is it a question for Jesse?
No, I wanted to invite everybody to Pig Fest. October 27 and 28.
Thank you.
Yes.
Alderman
Thank
Garza.
you.
I'd like to make a motion, that we
Alderman
adjourn.
Sassy.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. We're adjourned. Thank y'all. I was gonna come to you the second, Jeff. I said,